We started looking at the difference between needs and wants, and it's important to understand this contrast because we focus on our wants, and most everything out there is something that we want. Most everything in our world is not necessary to our survival. Really only food and water would be necessary to our survival. Everything else is something we desire. Even college. You can survive without going to college, but we believe that in order to have economic success, you should go to college, or your chances of obtaining economic success are greater if you go to college. And so what do we need and what do we want? We want goods and services. Our desire for them is really unlimited. We're never completely satisfied with these things that we have. Goods would include those physical objects that we see at a grocery store, maybe at Target, the things that we buy, those tangibles, things that are all around us. Whereas services are going to be those things that one person performs for another. My service is teaching and providing an education. If you rode the bus to school today, the bus driver would be providing a service to you. But no matter whether it's a good or a service, we have to remember that our desire, our want for them is unlimited. We might get a haircut and be satisfied with that, but in a few months, we're going to want another haircut. And so again, our desire for these things continues, is unlimited. We fulfill our needs and our wants by using resources. We take resources and we put them together to produce these goods and services. And we'll talk more about resources tomorrow because these are also called factors of production, FOP. But it really involves land, anything from nature, labor would be people, and capital would be the tools that we use to create things, the infrastructure and the buildings. All of these things are limited because all of our resources are limited. And that leads us to the fundamental economic problem of what economics is all about. We have unlimited wants, but we also have limited resources. When these two facts come together, it produces scarcity. Going back to our first learning objective, why does scarcity exist? Scarcity exists because we have unlimited wants and limited resources. Scarcity will always exist because we always want more, but yet things are always going to be limited. And so the question is that economists work with is how do we overcome that problem of scarcity? How do we try to get more of things when other things or resources are always limited? Individuals have to make these choices, businesses have to make these choices, and countries have to make these choices as well. Here's one simple diagram that we use to show how scarcity is created. A simple way to remember this as an equation, we could say that unlimited wants plus limited resources equals scarcity. But when we don't have enough of something, that's not scarcity, that's just a shortage, right? It's easy to use these words interchangeably, and so it's important to identify the difference between a scarcity and a shortage. A simple way to do that is with a table. Scarcity, as we've already said, is limited resources and unlimited wants. The thing is, it's permanent. It exists forever, and so I use that infinite symbol to show that it goes on forever. Whereas a shortage is simply a lack of something that's desired. It's when there's less of a good or service available than people want at the current price. We could say that demand, what people want, is greater than the supply. And that condition is temporary, unlike scarcity that is forever. We could say that we go to the pharmacist and we get some pills, they're out of stock. But come back next week and we'll have more. So it's a temporary condition. We'll have more eventually. But the thing is, the resources that are used to make these pills are scarce. And so we can have a good or a service, and we could have a shortage, we might not have a shortage, but we will always have scarcity. Another way to think about this is to think about things that last forever, or are said to last forever. One would be a diamond. And diamond companies have created an advertising scheme to make us believe that we need to give our loved ones something that will last as long as our love for them. If our love for someone is forever, we should give them a diamond that symbolizes our love for them. A diamond is hard, it's beautiful, and we need to give our beloved something that symbolizes that unbreakable bond between us. And so while we sometimes think that diamonds are scarce, we can make this connection by thinking that the diamond is forever, but also scarcity is forever. shortages are temporary. Another way we can look at this is by looking at things all around us. There's a popular television show called Seinfeld back in the 1990s, and if you click on this link, it goes to the clip, and you can identify how there's a shortage and then how scarcity is present in that situation. The last thing that we did today was take a look at the other handout. It's the activity with the 4 different news articles. The first one I did as an example. We read this together, and then we identified the shortage, and we identified how scarcity is present. And as a clue, always go back to the resources to think about how scarcity is present in the situation. I would recommend that you pause the video, go through those 4 scenarios, and then restart the video, and I will go through each of the scenarios individually. All right, looking at news article number 1, actually I did this example for you. There's a shortage of skilled workers, not just skilled workers in general, but specifically in medicine, agriculture, and then engineers. So there's not enough of them right now. Well, skilled workers are people, and people are a resource, and there's a limited number of them available to work in all of the jobs needed. Therefore, scarcity is present. In scenario number 2, we can easily identify that there is a shortage of blood. Blood comes from people, and people are a limited resource. Therefore, scarcity is also present in this situation. In number 3, we see that there is a shortage of teachers, but specifically, if you look in the second paragraph, it's teachers in special education, math, science, and bilingual or English learner education, but also in specific geographic areas. Scarcity would be present again because teachers are people, people are a limited resource. And lastly, we looked at this article about Venezuela. We find that there is a shortage of food, work, and medicine. And we think, well, what are the resources used to create food, work, and medicine? That would include labor and land, both of which are limited.